Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel for another vegan and gluten-free recipe. It's Hallo-week 2024, so to celebrate my all-time favorite holiday, I made this chocolate chip pumpkin bread. There's 13 lovely ingredients going into the chocolate chip pumpkin bread, so let's go through each of them one by one super quickly. First up, there's 3 3/4 cups of gluten-free flour. There's also 1.5 cups of white granulated sugar, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 2 teaspoons of pumpkin spice, 1.5 teaspoons of baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1 15-ounce can of pumpkin puree, 1 cup of extra virgin olive oil, 6 tablespoons of pure maple syrup, 1/4 cup plus 2 tablespoons of water, 1 tablespoon of lemon juice, 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, and finally 1 cup of vegan dark chocolate chips. Now let's go through the 8 steps of this recipe. I've linked it down below in case you'd like to follow along and make some of this Halloween-y festive chocolate chip pumpkin bread yourself. It's a recipe from Food Network, which I've actually never featured on this channel before, but of course everyone knows Food Network. I grew up watching tons of programs on Food Network. I'm talking Guy Fieri, Bobby Flay, I don't know if Gordon Ramsay was on there, I'm sure he was at some point, Giada, who's the Barefoot Contessa lady, Ina Garten I think is her name, Pioneer Woman, the list goes on and on. Yes, I'm a big fangirl of Food Network, but let's bring it back and get to the recipe steps. For step number 1, I'll whisk together 5 of the dry ingredients in a glass bowl. That'll be the gluten-free flour, the baking powder, the baking soda, the salt, and the pumpkin spice. For step number 2, I'll whisk together all the remaining ingredients except for the chocolate chips in a separate glass bowl. So those ingredients will be the white granulated sugar, the pumpkin puree, the maple syrup, the extra virgin olive oil, the vanilla extract, the water, and the lemon extract. For step number 3, I'll take the bowl with the dry ingredient mixture and pour it into the bowl with the wet ingredient mixture and stir everything together until the batter is well combined. For step number 4, I'll add in 3/4 cup of the vegan dark chocolate chips and I'll stir them into the batter until they're well dispersed. For step number 5, I'll divide the batter evenly between 2 lined 9x5 inch baking pans. I've prepped those pans already. I'll give you a quick look at what one of them looks like. The other one is identical. You'll see here that I have the parchment paper in the loaf pan, and then if you read through the recipe on foodnetwork.com, they actually tell you to have the parchment paper hanging over the long side of the loaf pan, and that's because it'll make it easier to actually lift out the loaves when they're done baking. Once the batter is evenly divided between the 2 baking pans, I'll take the remaining 1/4 cup of the vegan dark chocolate chips and sprinkle them over the 2 loaf pans. For step number 6, I'll place the baking pans into my oven and bake the loaves for 1 hour and 15 minutes at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. For step number 7, I'll remove the baking pans from my oven once the time is up. I'll set them on top of my oven to cool for about 15 minutes, and then I'll actually lift the loaves out of the baking pans using the parchment paper lining, and I'll let the loaves cool out of the baking pans for another hour. And then for step number 8, the final step of the recipe, I'll cut myself a slice or 2 of the chocolate chip pumpkin bread, show you a close-up, dig into it, and let you know what I think. Now that we've gone through all the ingredients and all the recipe steps, let's waste no time here and get started making this delicious Halloween treat. The chocolate chip pumpkin bread is looking beautiful. Before I unwrap it and take away the parchment paper, let's get you a close-up of these loaves. Just take a look. Isn't that so beautiful? I can't wait to cut into these and see the pumpkin color inside of the bread loaves. I think I'm gonna leave the parchment paper on the loaf that I'm gonna cut into just to keep, I don't know, the bread together. Already losing some chocolate chips, but that's fine. I really loaded these on the top. Oh, this is so pretty. I love it. Any chance to use pumpkin puree and pumpkin spice, that is the name of the game in October. And it is reminding me quite a bit of banana bread. I remember when my mom would send me loaves of banana bread with chocolate chips in them when I was in college, and all my roommates were so excited because she'd send so much of it that we all would get to enjoy it. I never got chocolate chip pumpkin bread, but it really is a fun variation on the banana bread loaf for the Halloween season. I was actually considering putting some orange food coloring into the loaves to really bring out the orange color, but I figured I would just stick with the pumpkin puree because you can see the slight orange shade in this loaf. All right, let's dig into one of these slices. I'm just gonna take a piece here. It's loaded with chocolate chips. I'm counting at least 6 here on the top, on the crust of the loaf piece, so let's go. So good. Of course, the chocolate is delicious, but I'm also getting the pumpkin puree, the pumpkin pie spice, and the vanilla extract. All those flavors are so delicious together. I really do love the combination of chocolate and pumpkin. Some might think that combo is a little gross. After all, it's chocolate with a squash gourd vegetable. Yeah, in theory, it might be gross, but here it's perfection. I think I could sit and eat a lot of this bread if I was super hungry and just wanted to eat this all day. Luckily, I'm going over to my parents' house today, and I'm actually gonna be bringing a whole loaf of this to share with them. I know for trick-or-treaters, there's this unspoken, unofficial rule that you're supposed to hand out prepackaged candy for safety reasons, and there's these weird urban legends about people putting terrible things into their homemade goodies. But seriously, it would be such a fun and kind of refreshing departure from the prepackaged candies if you went to a house and just got a bunch of homemade chocolate chip pumpkin bread. I think if I were a kiddo going trick-or-treating and I went to a house and someone gave me a nice little wrapped slice of this bread, I would eat it. That's all I have to share for this chocolate chip pumpkin bread recipe. Thank you so much for tuning in, and happy Halloween. I hope you enjoy the holiday however you choose to celebrate. If you like this recipe and are looking for other ways to use pumpkin puree, then I have 2 recipes linked for you at the end of this video. One of them is a pumpkin spice cake that I recently made for my 1,000 subscriber special. And the second recipe is definitely unusual. I had never had pancakes like these before, and you probably haven't either, but I promise you they're incredible. They're pumpkin teff pancakes. Take care, my lovely foodies. I hope you have a fun and festive Halloween this week. Eat well, and I'll see you in the next episode on this channel. Bye!